essential business, that kind of thing. So we're keeping good in the homestead as best we can. And I thought, well, what's better than a little poetry to keep us all uplifted? So um, I hi Linda. I thought I'd read a little bit for you guys. Uh, some of my favorites and some classics. So let's see what I can come up with here. Oh, here's one from a fellow you may have heard of, uh, a Mr. Walt Whitman, um, and a poem that you may have heard of, even if you're not into poetry. If you're into Robin Williams, we'll see who can name the reference. O Captain, my Captain, our fearful trip is done. The ship hath weathered every rack, the prize we sought is won. The port is near, the bells I hear, the people all exulting, while follow eyes the steady keel, the vessel grim and daring. But O heart, 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 O the bleeding drops of red, where on the deck my captain lies, fallen cold and dead. O Captain, my Captain, rise up and hear the bells! Rise up! For you the flag is flung, for you the bugle trills. For you bouquet and ribboned wreaths, for you the shores a crowding. For you they call the swaying mass, their eager faces turning. Here, Captain, dear father, this arm beneath your head, it is some dream that on the deck you've fallen cold and dead. My captain does not answer. His lips are pale and still. My father does not feel my arm, he has no pulse nor will. The ship is anchored safe and sound, its voyage closed and done. From fearful trip the victor ship comes in with object won. Exult, O shores, and ring, O bells, but I with mournful tread walk the deck, my captain lies, fallen, cold and dead. And that's Whitman's O Captain, My Captain. Hi, Caitlin. Thanks for joining. Um, on this new interface, I can't actually tell how many people are on, if anyone. So I just see you if you comment. So feel free to comment when you see something. Let's see what else we've got here. Oh, here's I love this one by Percy Shelley, who may not have been a great person, but was a fine poet in my opinion. Ozymandias. I met a traveller from an antique land, who said, "Two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them, on the sand, half sunk, a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip, and sneer of cold command, tell that its sculptor well those passions read which yet survive. Stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them, and the heart that fed, and on the pedestal these words appear: My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch away. Hey, Alex. I see you there. That was Ozymandias by Percy Shelley. As we go further back in time, yes, one of the poems that made me fall in love with a poem. Oh, I miss you too. And I really miss the Ken Waffle, Devin. I really, really do. Sorry, I just got all emotional there for a moment. Hi, Sil. This is a poem that made me fall in love with poetry a few too many years ago, by William Blake. the tiger. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer? What the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil? What dread grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? I love that one. Blake, if you haven't read a lot of Blake's poetry, it's really, really wonderful. Nearly as unsettling as his lithographs were, which are also definitely worth checking out sometime. There's some really nice reproductions you can find out on the internet, since you can't currently go see them in person unless you own them. In which case, welcome to my Facebook Live. Very rich person who probably owns a museum or something. I don't know. You don't own them. But if you do, can I come to your house after we're done social distancing? Um, let's see. Let's lift ourselves up a little bit beyond where we were. Let's go way back to Mr. Christopher Marlowe, contemporary of William Shakespeare, not our dear friend Shakespeare Approves, a different Shakespeare. Um, but his contemporary, Christopher Marlowe, also a playwright and a poet, who died a bit younger, lived rather fast, and left quite a good-looking corpse behind, by all reports. First, before he died, wrote The Passionate Shepherd to His Love. Come live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove, that hills and valleys, dales and fields, or woods or steepy mountain yields. And we will sit upon the rocks, and see the shepherds feed their flocks by shallow rivers, to whose falls melodious birds sing madrigals. And I will make thee beds of roses, and 1,000 fragrant posies, a cap of flowers, and a kirtle embroidered all with leaves of myrtle. A gown made of the finest wool, which from our pretty lambs we pull, fair lined slippers for the cold, with buckles of the purest gold. A belt of straw and ivy buds, with coral clasps and amber studs, and if these pleasures may thee move, come live with me and be my love. The shepherd swains shall dance and sing for thy delight each May morning. If these delights thy mind may move, then live with me and be my love. Hi, Laura, I see you. I'm glad you like that one. I do too. It's one of my favorites. I was going to do some John Donne. I briefly debated it, but I decided he's too depressing, and so we don't want to do John Donne today. Maybe another day. That's also why I'm not doing The Raven, even though I love it and my reading, I'm told, is fun. Instead, let's do some Coleridge, huh? Little Coleridge, never hurt anybody. This one, I sort of prefer the subtitle to the formal title. The subtitle is A Vision in a Dream, a Fragment. But the title most folks know is Kubla Khan. In Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure dome decree, where Alph the sacred river ran, through caverns measureless to man, down to a sunless sea. So twice 5 miles of fertile ground, with walls and towers, were girdled round, and there were gardens bright with sinuous rills, where blossomed many an incense-bearing tree. And here were forests, ancient as the hills, enfolding sunny spots of greenery. But oh, that deep romantic chasm which slanted down the green hill athwart a cedarn cover! A savage place! As holy and enchanted as e'er beneath a waning moon was haunted by woman wailing for her demon lover. And from this chasm, with ceaseless turmoil seething, as if this earth in fast thick pants were breathing, a mighty fountain momently was forced, amid whose swift half-intermittent burst, huge fragments vaulted like rebounding hail or chaffy grain beneath the thresher's flail. And mid these dancing rocks at once and ever it flung up momently the sacred river. 5 miles, meandering with a mazy motion, through wood and dale the sacred river ran, then reached the caverns measureless to man, and sank in tumult to a lifeless ocean. And, mid this tumult, Kubla heard from afar ancestral voices prophesying war. The shadow of the dome of pleasure floated midway on the waves, where was heard the mingled measure from the fountain and the caves. It was a miracle of rare device, a sunny pleasure dome with caves of ice. A damsel with a dulcimer in a vision once I saw. It was an Abyssinian maid, and on her dulcimer she played, singing of Mount Abora. Could I revive within me her symphony and song, to such a deep delight 'twould win me, that with music loud and long. I would build that dome in air, that sunny dome, those coves of ice, and all who heard should see them there, and all should cry, beware, beware, his flashing eyes, his floating hair. Weave a circle round him thrice, and close your eyes with holy dread, for he on honey dew hath fed, and drunk the milk of paradise. And that's Samuel Taylor Coleridge and Kubla Khan. Let's see, who else? Should I be more of a stereotype and do a little Byron? What do you think? Oh, hi, David. How are you? Um, or should I save Byron? I don't know. What else do we have? I've already done Ozymandias. Mm. Oh, here's a good one. Here's one. This is a favorite because it's oft taken out of context and misunderstood. Um, Folks may not realize, but Robert Frost is both formally and informally the official poet of the United States. Um, he, well, he's quite wonderful. And I'll do Byron in a minute, Laura. I just want to go back to Byron because first I want to do Frost. Um, and I like this one from Frost. I always have, even though it's a little bit cliched these days. I thought about doing Mending Wall, what with us being social distancing, and I thought a little too on the nose. So instead, we're going to do The Road Not Taken. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one, as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves, no step had trodden black rather. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. See, folks get bogged down in that last line and miss the first and second, where he was sorry he couldn't travel both, being but one traveler. But neither is necessarily better. So that's why I stick to these classics sometimes, because although they are well-traveled roads, I don't feel that they're the worse for it. Um, so let's do some Byron. Since I love me some Byron, again, not a super nice guy, but quite a nice poet. And again, I thought for the sake of the irony, I would do the destruction of Sennacherib, but instead, she walks in beauty, like the night, of cloudless climes and starry skies, and all that's best of dark and light meet in her aspect and her eyes. Thus mellowed to that tender light, which heaven to gaudy day denies, one shade the more, one ray the less, had half impaired the nameless grace which waves in every raven tress, or softly lightens o'er her face, where thoughts serenely sweet express how pure, how dear their dwelling place. And on that cheek and o'er that brow, so soft, so calm, yet eloquent, the smiles that win, the tints that glow, but tell of days in goodness spent, a mind at peace with all below, a heart whose love is innocent. That line always gets me because it seems so unexpected. It seems that he's going in a different direction. And knowing anything about Byron, you definitely expect him to be going not for the innocent, but he did in this particular case. So I appreciate the unexpected nature of that last line. I might come back to this book. I might yet give in to my own vanity and fun and do the Raven to end us out. Or maybe the West Wind. We'll see. But in but for now, I'm going to go to a different book. Oh, hi Petra. How are you? I see you. Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm certainly enjoying doing the reading. It's nice to have the practice, and it's nice to share a few of the poems that I like. I'm opening a different book here to read you a little something else. Here it is. This one's called Evensong at St. Paul's. Oh, and I hear you, Alyssa. I'll probably do it. This one's called Evensong at St. Paul's, and it's mine. The bells resound through the city. St. Paul's prepares for Evensong. In spite of myself, I am uplifted by the splendor of these bells and sobered by their intensity. And the bells change. A call to worship, pealing out the command, one note of power, one demanding tone, and inside the ancient organ is a huge sound, filling the cathedral, and it draws me to the nave beneath the great dome as the voices, the choral voices raise up and raise me up, softer and sharper than the great organ. I am humbled before the majesty, the potency of this place. This place soars, stones and pillars reaching God and older gods and drawing the people up on the wings of voice and organ and bell. they rise into the waiting arms of consecration. For this second, soaring themselves, stone and pillar. So that's Evensong at St. Paul's. That's one of mine I wrote when I was in London, which is a different story. Uh, let's see. What do you think? Should I read one more of mine and maybe go back to some of the experts? What do we think? Let's see. What else do we have here? I like how you walk and breathe and don't wear shoes on your bed to humor me. Obsessive compulsive sometimes, and you don't mind. You lie like a rug on the floor in a fuzzy, soft, not cold on your bare feet kind of way. Thank you, Laura. Um, a little modesty never hurt me. It's probably good for me. Thank you, Sarah. I'll read a couple more of mine. Let's see. What else do we have here? Let's see. Thanks, Tony. It's good to see you, man. All right, here's a silly one. This one's called Feline. Hey, kitty, you are so fat. Lick yourself some more. Fat kitty with a white underbelly. You are so soft. Your tail is long, but we all know size doesn't matter, you pussy. Hey, Aaron, how are you? Oh, I love you too, Tony. I miss you like hell. Let's see here. God, I wrote that cat one forever ago. Let's see, maybe one more. What else do we got here? Ooh, this is a good one. This is a little narrative poem that I've tinkered with for a long time. But keep up the good work, Aaron. We appreciate you. Um, this one's called Swim. When I was young, in summer I built dams to keep back the sea. I piled sand into Neolithic mounds, knee-high mountains that towered above the beach, walls of wet, coarse granules of ground rock and detritus. Then the tide rose and brushed my walls away like so much sand before the sea. My wall washed away, and my feet wet and cold, I walked away from the rising sea. At the next tide I tried weaving a reef. Driftwood branches and seaweed I built a barrier. Tight knots and thick wood would hold the tide away, and it held, except the sea found the cracks, slipped inside like a thief or a lover. My feet were wet and my knees cold. I walked away up the beach, away from the creeping sea, and it broke my barricade. At the next tide I dressed for battle. I had learned. I wore hip boots. This time my feet would be dry. I had learned. I constructed better. This time my reef would be the bones. This time my mounds would be the skin. This time black, brittle, hard muscle shells would be armor against the tide. I watched and waited as the water rose. We were placid together. I, in my arrogance, triumph when the terrible bulk pushed the salt away, crushed when the salt swept it all away. Crushed. I stood and let the tide rise over my knees, my toes. I was not wet. I was not cold. I was dry. I was cold. I walked away from the rising sea, sloshing in the water, leaving no trace, feeling no victory. At the next tide, I went with no boots, no stratagem, no craft. At the next tide, I sat on the sand and watched the sea slip, creep, sweep up the beach. Absent-minded, I dug into the sand a small semicircle in front of me and on the sides. It grew deep, inches even. The tide rolled into my trench, but I didn't worry. Soon it was full, and the salt poured over me, over my position. I was in it. I had no wall, no barricade, no fortress, only an open moat. I was cold. I was wet. Did not walk away. I reclined into the rolling summer sea, and it rocked me gently, like a lover. So I swam away from the beach. That was one that took me a long time to write. When it finally came together, I think, though. I'm pretty happy with that one. I like that one a lot. That's called Swim. God, I've been reading for almost a half an hour, haven't I? Let's see, maybe. All right, one. I think I got one more in me of mine before I go back to the classics. I think. No, not that one. Again, too much on point. It's called Breathing, and I feel like. Thanks, Tony. I feel like that's too close to home right now. Let's keep it up. Where is the one I'm looking for? I'm looking for a particular one now. There it is. There we go. This one's probably my favorite one that I've ever written, to such a degree that I have it, for those who can see, I don't know if you can, tattooed down my arm, or the refrain of it. This is a villanelle, which is one of my favorite poetic forms, called Dawn at the Great Pyramid. Serpentine horns spit like reptilian weeping at the Egyptians at dawn. And the drums beat them from sleeping. In language old with god kings the people sing at dawn. And serpentine horns spit like reptilian weeping at cool-breezed beauty in desert burning sands. Sahara and Nile waters yawn, and the drums beat them from sleeping. In the coolness, before the heat of flaming sky, copper is in color and scent and thickness drawn, and serpentine horns spit like reptilian weeping at the infrared rainbow arching over Khufu's tomb at dawn. And the drums beat them from sleeping. And the children laugh while dew is drying, and they stretch and yawn and serpentine horns spit like reptilian weeping, and the drums beat them from sleeping. I've always really, really liked that one. Wrote it many years ago, but I think it's still my favorite um, of mine, anyway. But thank you for indulging me while I read a little bit of my stuff here. But I think we're gonna do the Raven now to wrap it up. You guys on board for that? What do you think? Uh, where'd I put the book? There we go. This is a great little book, by the way. Just a nice little collection. I don't know if I've still got anybody with me or if I'm just reading to myself. But as we hit that half-hour mark, or a little past the half-hour mark, let's slip into Edgar Allan Poe and talk about somebody who's having quite an evening. Once, upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door, "only this, and nothing more." Ah, distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow. Vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood, repeating, "'Tis some visitor, entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor, entreating entrance at my chamber door, that it is, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger. Hesitating then no longer, "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door, and darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting, dreams dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore?" This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, "Lenore." Merely this, and nothing more. Back into the chamber, turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard a tapping, something louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, nothing more." Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter in there stepped a stately raven, of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird, beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore, Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly, grim, and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. Much I marvelled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore, for we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door with such a name as Nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on that placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing farther then he muttered, not a feather then he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, Other friends have flown before, on the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, Nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, Doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast, and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore of nevermore. But the raven, still beguiling all my sad soul into smiling, straight I wheeled the cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking Nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease, reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er, but whose velvet lining with the lamplight gloating o'er she shall press, ah, nevermore. Then, methought, the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch! I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee respite! Respite and nepenthe thee from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff, this kind nepenthe thee from thy memories of Lenore, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempter sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted. Tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aidenn it shall clasp a sainted maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. clasp a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore? Quoth the Raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked, upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beat from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the Raven, nevermore. And the Raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor. And my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted. Nevermore. And that's the Raven. Um, I mean, it needs to be done, right? I love that one. Always have. Probably always will. Um, but we can't end there, can we? No, I don't know if we can end on the Raven. It's been such a nice night, and I'm already creeping up on 45 minutes. So let's see, what's fun? Ooh, what do you say to some Lewis Carroll? We like Lewis Carroll? I think we could do some Carroll. Um, oh, thank you, Tony. Should we do Walrus and the Carpenter? Jabberwocky? They're both kind of sad. I always think Jabberwocky's sad. I don't know. Maybe not some Lewis Carroll. Let's do something nice. What do we have that's nice? Why are poets also depressed? Hey, hi, Adam. How are you, man? Let's see here. No, not the listeners. That's creepy as hell. No. Flanders, no. Oh, man, all sorts of stuff here. Oh, God. Let's see. No. Let's go all the way back. See you later, Tony. Oh, Laura's voting for Walrus and the Carpenter. Thanks for listening, Tony. I appreciate you joining us. I think that Jabberwocky might be a dance group, Adam, but they probably took their name from the poem. Oh, you know what we should do? This will be fun. We'll do some Edward Lear. We'll do The Owl and the Pussycat, because I really like that one. Let's see. That's... Plus, it's a little bit silly, and it's a little bit fun. Edward Lear, The Owl and the Pussycat. The owl and the pussycat went to sea in a beautiful pea-green boat. They took some honey and plenty of money wrapped up in a 5-pound boat. Note. The owl looked up to the stars above and sang to a small guitar, "Oh, lovely pussy, oh, pussy, my love, what a beautiful pussy you are, you are, you are. What a beautiful pussy you are." Pussy said to the owl, "You elegant fowl, how charmingly sweet you sing. Oh, let us be married, too long have we tarried, but what shall we do for a ring?" They sailed away for a year and a day to the land where the bong tree grows, and there in a wood a piggy-wig stood, with a ring at the end of his nose, his nose, his nose, with a ring at the end of his nose. "Dear pig, are you willing to sell for 1 shilling your ring?" said the piggy. "I will." So they took it away, and were married next day by the turkey who lives on the hill. They dined on mince and slices of quince, which they ate with a runcible spoon, and hand in hand on the edge of the sand they danced in the light of the moon, the moon, the moon. They danced by the light of the moon. And I think that's what we all should do, perhaps. Although it's raining a bit here tonight, we should dance by the light of the moon a little more often. Alone, or at least 6 feet away from your fellow dancers. Don't forget to wash your hands, folks. Don't forget to take care of each other. And I love you. Thank you for joining us. Me. I've been your friendly neighborhood Feldegast, or just Ken. And maybe I'll do this again soon, or not. We'll see. Um, if you have poetry suggestions, put them in the comments. Maybe I'll read them next time. I have lots and lots of poems that I like, and lots of poets that aren't in that book, that are in many other books. So I didn't even read any Shakespeare. Probably should. I love him. Anyway, we're at 47 minutes, and that's probably too long. So thanks, everybody. Love you lots. Take care of yourselves. Wash your hands. Keep that social distancing up. I know it's tough, but you can do it. And if you ever want to say hi, I'm here for it. Bye, loves.